Hello and welcome back to Supposedly Fun. My name is Greg. I am here today to do my book haul for January of 2020, and my t-shirt is thematically linked to one of the books, but we will get to that. Good month for books. I'm really excited about some of these. My husband had given me a gift card to my favorite local independent bookstore in Missoula, and some of these came from that. Very much looking forward to talking to them. Let's just dive right in because we have a couple of things to get to. I'm going to start with the ones that are a little bit familiar to you guys because I've been talking about them because I finished one of them and I'm currently reading one of them. The one I am currently reading is The Prophets by Robert Jones Jr. This is a book about Isaiah and Samuel. They are slaves on a plantation in the pre-Civil War era, and they are in love. And the story gets even more complicated than that because another slave on the plantation has been sort of trained to be a preacher, and he starts causing trouble for Samuel and Isaiah by kind of pointing out homosexuality is a sin and drawing attention to them. People had been previously kind of okay with it, and now they're starting to avoid them, and it's causing all sorts of trouble. I am really loving this book a lot. If you follow along, you're aware. So I'm really looking forward to finishing this. It's just one of those things where now in 2021, where I don't have a reading goal and where I'm kind of focusing on like mood reading and what I would like to read next. This is something that as soon as it came in the door, I picked up and wanted to start reading, and it has not been a disappointment so far. I am halfway through it. This is published by Putnam. I like to do the first line or couple of lines from a book. So the first chapter of this is called Judges. You do not yet know us. You do not yet understand. We who are from the dark, speaking in the seven voices, because seven is the only divine number, because that is who we are and who we have always been, and this is the law. By the end you will know, and you will ask why we did not tell you sooner. Do you think you were the first to have asked that question? You are not. I'm really loving this book. I can't wait to finish it. And, I kind of feel smugly good about myself that, at least in this book haul, I will have read 2 books for sure by the end of the month, hopefully. I'm hoping I'll be done with this by the end of the month. And so that when I do my book haul revisit for next year, it won't be so bad because there are some other ones that I would really like to try to get to this year. But if you follow along, I suck at TBRs. So we'll see how that goes. But this is one that I am already reading, already enjoying, and I know a lot of other people have picked up. And hopefully we're gonna be hearing a lot more about it through 2021 because I think it's early, but it seems like a lock for maybe a couple of book prizes, maybe some best of lists. It's early, so we'll see. But that's The Prophets by Robert Jones Jr. The next one, which I have already read and finished, is My Friend Dahmer by Derf Backderf. This is a graphic memoir, and basically the premise of this is that Derf Backderf, it's not his real name, it's confirmed, Derf Backderf went to high school with Jeffrey Dahmer, and while nobody really knew Jeffrey Dahmer, he and his group of friends were kind of like band geeks and not like the most popular people in school. Kind of associated with Jeffrey Dahmer, who at the time was just a troubled kid, very quiet, but he would do like impressions of spasms and tics and fits and things like that. And he'd speak as if he had cerebral palsy. And of course, he realizes now that should not have been funny, but in the 1970s, it was something that was amusing. So he and his friends formed what they jokingly referred to as the Jeffrey Dahmer fan club and would draw him into the yearbook and things like that. And of course, it's about how at the time they had no way of knowing just how dark everything going on in his life were. But they picked up on things like Jeffrey Dahmer would binge drink to get through high school. And they would notice the smell of alcohol, but maybe wouldn't know what it was. One of them thought that he just used a lot of mouthwash. But it's also almost like an indictment of the adults around, because if they noticed some weird things like he was drinking at school, how did adults not notice? How did adults not do anything? And of course, Derf Backderf is not trying to say that someone could have stopped Jeffrey Dahmer, but certainly someone maybe could have intervened or stopped him from going on his serial killing spree and just noticed the signs that something was really off. It's a very interesting book, and it's a very quick read. Any graphic memoir to me is a quick read. I read it in a single afternoon, and it is put out by Abrams, and I do recommend it. I still kind of like the idea of true crime, but a lot of true crime could be kind of lurid and feel off from that perspective for me. So this one, to me, it has to have some kind of other approach to it, and this is one of those for me. Then we have a book that I've kind of had my eye on for years, and I finally have a copy of, and this is the one that ties into my t-shirt. It's Born to be Posthumous, The Eccentric Life and Mysterious Genius of Edward Gorey. I was a huge Edward Gorey fan in my teens and early 20s, and I still am a big fan. And this book came out, I want to say like 3 or 4 years ago, and I've had my eye out for it ever since. But it was never released in paperback. My library never had a copy. It's not available on Scribd. It's not available on Libby. So when my husband gave me a gift card, I said, you know what, finally, I'm just going to order it for myself. And because that's the only way I'm ever really going to get this book. It's $35. It doesn't seem, if it hasn't come out in paperback by now, what are the odds? And my library is clearly not going to get a copy. So here we are. This is, of course, from the title, you can tell about the life of Edward Gorey, who did all kinds of oddball, eccentric works, most notable for his illustrations. I am a huge fan of the Gashly Crumb Tinies, which is my t-shirt. And it's something I even kind of introduced my foster son to. I used to have a set designed on his stage design for the Dracula stage play. It was beautiful, and unfortunately it disappeared when I was moving. I don't know where it is anymore, and I wish I had it back because it's so good. And Edward Gorey was, of course, because his work is so eccentric, you can guess that the person was really eccentric. He loved wearing this big, lavish fur coat in all weather, including the summer. He had a kind of ambiguous sexuality and had kind of fascination with death and macabre things. And I'm really looking forward to learning more about the person beyond his work. I didn't read the first sentence of My Friend Dahmer. I feel like it's weird to read a first sentence of a graphic memoir, so I'm going to leave that alone. But we will do the beginning of Born to be Posthumous, which is published by Little Brown and Company. Chapter 1. So introduction is a good mystery. Let's do that. Edward Gorey was born to be posthumous. After he died, struck down by a heart attack in 2000, a joke made the rounds among his fans. During his lifetime, most people assumed he was British, Victorian, and dead. Finally, at least one of the above was true. And that's actually, I was one of those people. I kind of assumed that Edward Gorey was someone from the Victorian era, and he was not. Which is why I think this is going to be a really interesting book. And then the first chapter of the book is just, his was a perfectly ordinary childhood, Gorey always insisted. That is Born to be Posthumous, a book I've been kind of wanting for years and finally have. Next, we have a book called Trio by Wiliam Boyd. Now, I got a copy of this from Knopf, which publishes it, and I don't remember how. I think I entered a contest. I've entered a bunch of contests for books and things lately, and because I've entered a bunch of them, I don't remember which ones. So somehow, this book ended up in my mail from Knopf. Thank you, Knopf. I'm pretty sure I won a contest. And that's what it is. But anyway, I'm really glad to have it, especially since it's winter. It is a sunny day here right now, but we still have snow on the ground. And the cover just speaks of like sun and summer, and I guess I'm yearning for that. So it's making me feel warm and fuzzy inside, even though the premise of the book is not necessarily that. So if you follow along at all, you probably know that I am also, in addition to books, fascinated by movies and old Hollywood and all of that stuff. So you can imagine that I am very intrigued by this sunny looking book about a producer, a novelist, and an actress who, as they make a disaster-plagued movie in 1960s Britain, it uses the tumultuous upheavals of the 1960s for both comedic and emotional effect. It sounds like a really interesting book. The back promises that it will ask the vital question, what makes life worth living, and what do you do if you find out it isn't? Sounds kind of intriguing, and again, kind of belies the sunny kind of feel of the book itself. Again, this is published by Knopf. And chapter 1, Elfrida Wing stirred, grunted, and shifted sleepily in her bed as the summer's angled morning sun brightened the room, printing a skewed rectangle of lemony gold light onto the olive green flecked wallpaper close by her pillow. I'm already kind of intrigued. That description of like the wallpaper, like I'm pretty sure my grandmother had olive green wallpaper when I was a kid. So that is Trio by Wiliam Boyd. So Born to be Posthumous was something I spent my Christmas gift card on, and this is another one, A Boy's Own Story by Edmund White. This is published by Penguin, and it's a kind of beautiful edition. There are older editions of this book that you can kind of track down. Obviously did not do that. I went with this one, but I think it's a very beautiful edition of the book. This is something that's been on my radar screen for a very long time, and I'm so glad I finally have a copy, very similar to Born to be Posthumous. I'm ashamed to say that despite my interest in LGBTQ literature, I have never read a book by Edmund White, and I really want to fix that. Hopefully this will be the year that I do it, and having this around will be, I have a memoir of him about his time in New York City in the 70s. But this is one that I've really wanted, so having the gift card really gave me a good excuse to get it. This is a semi-autobiographical novel about a boy coming of age in the 1950s and 1960s, and also trying to come to terms with his sexuality at a time when being gay was not really an option. This is part of a trilogy. The books that follow kind of advance along the protagonist's life as he ages and goes about his life. They are The Beautiful Room is Empty and The Farewell Symphony, and I'm really looking forward to this. I've heard great things about Edmund White, and there's actually a quote: Edmund White has crossed J.D. Salinger with Oscar Wilde to create an extraordinary novel. That comes from the New York Times Book Review, and let's do the first line. We're going for a midnight boat ride. It's a cold, clear summer night, and four of us, the two boys, my dad and I, are descending the stairs that zigzag down the hill from the house to the dock. Old Boy, my dad's dog, knows where we're headed. He rushes down the slope beside us, looks back, snorts, and tears up a bit of grass as he twirls in a circle. That is A Boy's Own Story by Edmund White. Now, the final book that will be in this book haul that I got with my gift card, there's actually one book that's being released next week and another book I ordered which has not come in yet. But the final one that I got with my gift card from Christmas for this book haul is Cantoras by Carolina de Robertis. I've heard a lot of really good things about this book, but somehow only recently did I find out that it's a kind of queer book. and you know, maybe it's wrong that immediately piqued my interest in it, but I was already interested, but that really set it up to the point where it's like, okay, I need a copy of that. So this is another LGBTQ book, as I mentioned. It follows 5 women who find each other in Uruguay in the 1970s under a brutal government which defines homosexuality as a dangerous transgression. It follows the women over 35 years, and it's about the changing times. It's about their successes, their failures, their relationships and breakups over this period of time as the women try to live authentic lives in a society that doesn't want them to be authentic at all. And if you follow along, you know that those are all things that kind of check my boxes as a reader, and it's supposed to be a really good book. I've heard a lot of good things about this, a lot, and it's got a beautiful, beautiful cover as well. This is published by Vintage, and Chapter 1, Escape. The first time, which would become legend among them, they entered in darkness. Night enfolded the sand dunes. Stars clamored around a meager slice of moon. Beautiful beginning to Cantoras by Carolina de Robertis. Then we get into, when I was looking at things that I could spend my gift card on, I went through my list of my books I want to read on Goodreads. I'm still transitioning to the Storygraph, and found a couple of books that are older and out of print, and there were actually cheap used copies available. So both this one and the next one are ones that fit in that category. I'm going to kind of cover the cover a bit because there's nudity on this cover, and if you follow along, you know I once got flagged for language in a video that had no bad language, so I feel like I always have to be really, really careful now. But anyway, this is A Matter of Life and Sex by Oscar Moore. It is published by Plume, but this is an old edition. I first learned about this book from Sean the Book Maniac. He is a treasure trove of LGBTQ lit you may not have heard of. This is one of those. This was published in 1991, so I'm a little concerned that it may not have aged well, but we'll see. I'm going to try to go in with an open mind. It follows Hugo Harvey, who pursues sex and drugs as an escape over time, leading him through gay life into the AIDS era. And part of where this is interesting to me and where it could be problematic to me is that in the time before gay marriage or gay relationships were seen as acceptable by society, sex was really all a gay person had available to them as a means of expressing who they were. And a lot of fiction and nonfiction explores that and the depersonalization that comes along with that. I think of Dancer from the Dance. It would be a classic example of that. But a lot of it also feels judgmental. And in my mind, that can be especially problematic when the specter of AIDS is all too frequently used as a sort of punishment device for that. Even if you're not really condemning the person for what they did, it's just, it's like a minefield to me. And it feels like gay sexuality is simultaneously fetishized and condemned. But still, I'm always really curious about the literature from this time period, and this is one of those. Let's do the first sentence of it. It opens with a letter, actually, but let's do the first sentence of the book. Chapter 1, Two Wheels to Paradise. Hugo was a liar. Of course, he lied to escape punishment and ended up being punished for lying, but he was also a fantasist whose lies invented a world where everything was extraordinary. That's an interesting beginning. Very intrigued by that. Some really good beginnings to the books in this book haul. And then the other one that I discovered from Sean the Book Maniac, in which there was a cheap used copy available, is Safe as Houses by Alex Jeffers. This is published by Faber and Faber, but again, this is an old edition. It's even a hardcover, which is kind of nice. So this is kind of in the same boat as A Matter of Life and Sex, since it was published in 1995. But instead of focusing on sex and sort of the gay club scene and all of that stuff, it depicts an attempt to form a queer family in a time when that was really an impossible idea. It follows Alan, who is the hearing son of deaf parents, as he forms a partnership with Jeremy, who has a 5-year-old son. And then soon after that, they take in or sort of foster Alan's gay nephew, Kit. Safe as Houses is about the sort of traumas and the joys of family, which is absolutely in my wheelhouse. That is something that really immediately makes me interested in a book. So you can imagine that as soon as I heard that, I was like, I am on board. It also celebrates being different and what it means to be an alternative family. So this sounds like a really interesting thing. Again, it could be dated because it's from 1995, a time when Alan and Jeremy refer to themselves as partners, which is a term that people still use today. But because gay marriage is legal, I refer to my husband as a husband. I'm really picky that way. I feel like it shouldn't have to have an alternate term. He's a man who's I'm married to. That makes him my husband. But anyway, so it'll be interesting to see how what is depicted in this book has changed in the years since it was published. And let's do the beginning. Part 1, An Enchanted Family. These are stories my father never told me. He had never heard his name. He wrote his name in all his books on the flyleaf. Janos Kasuth Pastori. First or given or Christian name, middle name, family or last name, or surname. Why did they need the 3 terms for the same idea? He had no family. Why did they need 3 names for him? 1 turn of the hand, 1 elegant gesture. That was enough. Surely. There you go. That is Safe as Houses by Alex Jeffers. And then the last book in this book haul is The Removed by Brandon Hobson. This is published by Echo. What intrigued me about this book is that it promises to draw on Cherokee folklore to explore how trauma reverberates over time, which is something I am very interested in. It's another thing that kind of just immediately makes me really interested in a book. It follows the Echota family, who have spent 15 years grieving their son Ray Ray, who was killed in a police shooting. As an annual bonfire reunion approaches, each family member faces a sort of crisis point and what is described as, quote, a strange blurring of the boundary between normal life and the spirit world. Color me intrigued, and it's got a beautiful, beautiful cover as well. Not that, covers aren't everything. Shouldn't judge a book by its cover, but that is really pretty stunning, if you ask me. Let's do the beginning, and again, this, I don't know if I mentioned, but this is published by Echo. And the beginning of the book, prologue. The day before he died in the remote town of Kua, Oklahoma, Ray Ray Echota rode his motorcycle down the empty stretch of highway, blowing past rain puddles and trees, a strong wind pressing against his body. He was 15 years old. And there you have it. Those are the books that I brought into my library in the month of January. I'm really excited about all of them. Even just reading the opening of all of them, it kind of got me excited all over again. And just for my future book haul revisit, I'm happy that I've already read 1.5 of them, and I'm really looking forward to reading more. If you have thoughts about any of these books, recommendations based on these, anything like that, please put it in the comment section down below. I will leave it there for today. And as always, I really appreciate your time, especially if you follow along. I will be back. Until next time, happy reading.